Hello, welcome back to Casino Guitars. I'm sitting here with a very special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
What up, y'all? I'm Matt Waters. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, the 513 dog. We're about to win a damn Super Bowl.
Cincinnati, I like it. Here we go. You're playing at the Neon Rooster tonight, which our wonderful cameraman Derek, he is running that venue. It's his place, so it's pretty cool. Are you excited?
Dude, I'm so excited. Like, when you're scrolling through Facebook and you stop to watch content, like you expect it to be at a certain par, and like every time I see stuff from the Neon Rooster, it's just through the roof and the bars pop up. I'm like, where is this place popped up? And then you tell me Aberdeen, and like until I could spell it right, I didn't believe it existed. I couldn't find the Facebook messages. I thought I just made this gig up in a dream, and here we are. So it's starting to feel surreal, man.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
You know? And now we're in a guitar store too. It's great. We got
which is badass.
Yeah. So, speaking of that, you're a guitar player.
Yeah. What's
your #1 guitar right now as far as like road gear goes?
I have fallen in love with a Cherry Flying V that my buddy just gave me. It was never something I wanted. I didn't want to be Lenny Kravitz before.
I see all these photos with you in a Telly. I was like, he's going to say Telly, and it's like, Cherry Flying V.
Dude, I've had these Tellys for so long, and like they've been badass guitars. But there's something about the Flying V that just makes me swing around and get really reckless with it. I don't know. It's been an uplift to my life for sure. So now my backup is my SG, or I'm taking my 335 out every once in a while.
Yes.
What kind of buckers?
What kind of SG do you have?
I just have like an early 2000s standard.
Yeah,
but
it's super cool though.
Yeah,
I was like, you know, you never know. SGs are funky. Like I see some guys who are like 61, and they got like the slim taper D-neck thing going on, and then like you got stuff like that.
Well, I've always wanted to have one with like an OG Maestro on there, just because I love those tail pieces and the way they play, because there's not that much variance to it. But until I find the right one, I don't want to approach that. Like I don't want to spend this money on the guitar.
I got
that's
one
not
of those.
For life.
I'll let you jam on it.
Okay, okay.
It'll be fun, man. We'll have fun.
But then I have my uncle just bought a Thunderbird, and is it a Firebird or a Thunderbird?
Thunderbird's Guild.
Okay.
Firebird's Gibson.
Okay, yeah, it's at the Firebird.
Okay.
And he was like, man, you gotta play some slide on this thing. I was like, I can barely play a slide, but that, yeah, dude. Shows me a picture of Keith Richards playing one. I'm like, all right, word. Like I can get into that through body neck kind of vibe.
It's way up there too. The first time I tried to play a Firebird, I was just like, what in the hell am I doing?
Do you know what the scale length is on something like that?
No clue. No personal clue.
Yeah, they thick like that though.
I like that.
Yeah.
So you're also, you have some very interesting, intricate sounds that I heard on your EP. What are you running as far as your pedals go that, you know, you think is shaking it up? What's your favorite, I guess?
So when it comes to stuff that's on the EP, like right now for my live stuff, I'm just running a Helix, just to keep it simple, traveling without an amp.
Awesome. Yeah.
But back home, like I really keep it to like a DD500 for all my delays. Yes. I love my blues driver. One thing that I really hold on to, if you guys ever heard of Wilson effects?
I've seen them in like crossing, like on a reverb, you know, scan. What you got from them?
Well, Kevin's an Indiana guy, and I got 3 pedals from him. I got one called a Stone Grasshopper, which is kind of like clean boost, a little bit of dirty, and like great fuzz with like a mid control. I have another fuzz he makes called the Dirty Beaver, which is so righteous. It's hot pink, and I bought it on sale. What a day in my life,
Dirty
man.
Beavers, baby.
Yeah. And then there's one other, I'm forgetting the name of it. Oh, the Lotus Drive. The Lotus Drive is like my primary distortion.
Yeah. Lotus Drive.
Great pedals, great dude. I also use one of his, he takes those Dunlap mini wahs and he just scraps them and just builds a real funky wah onto them. It's been an awesome addition to my home board.
That sounds sick. I'm gonna have to check those out.
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah. So you just dropped an EP, what, today?
Yeah, today.
Yes. What's the EP called? Just to let everybody know.
The Impatient EP. 4 songs. It starts off with a tune called Colorful, which is a little more on the rock side. Impatient's really dipping into the funk that I was going for on this. A song called Teeter Totter, which is also like more of a pop funk vibe. And then it follows up with a song called Operation Funkadelic, which is an homage to the Gentlemen of Parliament.
Well, there you go. I'm a big Funkadelic and Parliament kind of guy. You know
for sure. Well, we all love Catfish, man. It's like there's not many guitar players like that.
No, insanity. Maggot Brain, the first time I heard that. Yes, we were talking before about the first time I started playing guitar, and a gentleman showed me that record, and he was like, this is all you need.
Yeah.
Learn how to make the guitar talk. And I was like, okay, and I just wandered off listening to that record. Great.
And then you listen to like the evolution of that on like Bootzilla or something like that. It's cool how like the P-Funk Nation had such signature tones that would carry between these sessions in the same way that like a Motown era kind of has such motifs to itself throughout.
That's super cool. It seems like you're very kind of in-depth with that stuff too. Would you say that's one of your biggest inspirations, or is that just kind of like in the realm of many inspirations for you?
Well, I think like you never know when you're gonna find a certain genre in your life, and these last 5 years for me have been very funk oriented, and I think that started with like developing a love for Prince for the first time, and getting into like I just got a copy of that self-title, like one of the 78 pressings of it, and you just listen to the outro on "I Want to Be Your Lover," and you're like, this is the first song.
I
and we're
heard
getting
that
slapped
song
like that
on the radio one day, just a few months ago, and it came on, and I was like, oh my god, the guitar playing and everything. I was like, and then you hear the stories about how he did it all himself, production-wise. He like got in there and like he tricked him and like let him do it and everything, and it was insane to hear that. And through the rest of the songs on the record, it's like he was a genius from the very beginning. Like you're talking about an 18-year-old dude, he's killing it.
An 18-year-old that's like so clearly obsessed with getting this right that I don't know if obviously I wasn't around at that point in time, but I'm sure some people could feel that this is someone that was going to supersede what James did, what Rick James did, and then he would be of his own era in that. Like you watch that Super Bowl halftime show, and it's just pouring down rain, and he's in stilettos murdering it. You're like, all right, this is the guy.
Killer guitar player too, like so underrated. And on that, like him loving tellies too, that's a whole thing within itself. And I'm like, it makes me want to pick up like a telly.
For sure, and go straight into the board every time. Like, don't worry about an amp. You'll figure it out with your hands.
He's just that good.
He is. And there's an awesome. I think it's 1983. It's Prince's Piano and a Microphone tour.
Yes.
And like
they just released that record like a year ago or something
probably
like that.
About that. I think he came out with his book.
Yes.
And it's like you listen to these recordings, and I don't know if they mic'd his foot, but the greatest four on the floor I've ever felt is just Prince stomping under his piano.
Prince's foot.
Exactly. It's just magical, man.
Nice track, Questlove.
Yeah. It hurts. It hurts.
I agree though. No, it's sick.
Yeah.
That's great. So Prince, huge inspiration. Anybody else that you could think of that really drives home for you on that guitar playing end or on the songwriting end even,
As a guitar player, like my first teacher was a Beatles nut, so like those are the first records I ever sat down with somebody and like would slow down licks and explain why it was this and not that. Yeah. And so I feel like a lot of those things kind of sat like that. That was a great base for me as a kid. Yeah. And then growing up and seeing like particularly Paul's evolution, like watching like the Paul McCartney Unplugged and realizing like the touch that guy has on acoustics, but also the way that it's pulled the songs out of him. Like I always write with an acoustic in hand because it feels good to move air like that.
I mean, that's super cool thought process too on it. I think an acoustic guitar is I don't know, I'm very similar in that way where if it's not an acoustic guitar, it's my electric unplugged.
Yeah.
And there's something to that, just you and the instrument acoustically kind of like vibrating and stuff, which is awesome that you're like coming from that process, and especially from a guy like Paul McCartney. It's like the songwriter in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? He's incredible.
And one of the guys that, his songs sit on acoustic in a way that from start to finish as a player, you're going from one of your first songs being like, I saw her standing there and learning just these weird iterations of an E chord to something like Blackbird, where it's like the intermediate, choice of facility. Like that's how you get those jumps. If I don't learn
this, I won't be a guitar player. Yeah, that's like the ultimate challenge right there in that intermediate realm. You're right. Yeah.
For sure. And then I think we were just trying to watch a little bit more of Get Back and realizing like George's place in the band is like the designated noodler. Like he's just sitting back there at all points in time, just giving options, you know. Versus Paul, it's every day getting in there. He's like, okay, I wrote 2 songs before you guys got here, and last night this came to me in a dream, so I still got to write it down, but we're doing this.
Yes. Yeah. Such a great documentary too with Get Back. It's one of those things like, even though it's not, super specific, it's of a moment, and it's like an album, it's like of a moment. It's super cool.
Especially as you're watching that song get built underneath, like knowing the real words as he struggles through these verses, and like the anticipation of hearing it sit for the first time is so crazy. Yes. But then I got an error reading from Disney Plus, and I haven't gotten to finish it. I'm 10 minutes from finishing episode 2 with error 5803. I'm gonna find you. What's going on?
Come on, Disney Plus. You gotta get it together. We're trying to get into Get Back. I've only watched it through scamming other people's Disney Pluses. Friends of mine who are like, here you go. I'm like, oh, thanks for the login.
Yeah, exactly. But it's only like, can you really take back a password once you share like a Netflix password or something like that?
If I've went somewhere and I've logged into my Netflix, I'm like, this is where it stays.
Yeah, this is forever.
It's here now.
Same thing with your Gmail. Watch yourself. Like
right, yes. Gmail and everything else. So you have the show tonight, right? And What's the tour schedule looking like for the next couple of months or so? You got any shows coming up or anything?
So we're going to, tomorrow we're going to Columbia, South Carolina, which we've been frequent in Columbia. We really love that town. And then we're going to Nashville on the way home to Cincy.
Sweet.
Then the band's venturing into like some Northern Ohio stuff, like some Akron area, Bowling Green area.
Heck yeah. That's where Derek's from. He's pumping his fist.
Man.
Yes, sir.
I'll put you in touch with some people.
Please do. So we play a spot in Bowling Green called Howard's, which is just one of like the best rooms. What I feel like in Ohio, it's probably like a 350 cap. And you can just feel that this place wants to get burned to the ground. You know what I mean? So we're hoping that those go well. That's a little later next month. And then like our first quarter of touring kind of surmises with a live album. So like we normally travel as a trio, but this is like the 7-8 piece band with the horn section and our auxiliary percussionist. And
I've been listening to some of your EP and I heard the horns following a guitar line. I was like, I wonder if there's no way he's doing that with the pedal.
No, man.
Okay, there's a whole band. This is awesome.
Well, and I love having horn players because the way that they approach your lines are so different. So it's like, I'm not great about, you know, this moment where you've written on the acoustic and now you're going to transition to what are my electric parts to fill this in, because now the bass is going to take this aspect of these ranges. Like, what do I not need to play? And when a lead line goes from something that I'm looping on my acoustic gigs, getting a feel for, and now it has like the legato of like a trombone, like that kind of smoothness and this different brassy texture.
Well, it kind of chunks it up, but not really, right? Because it's like brass instruments, somehow they're thin but chunky, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like you hear that, like it doesn't take up so much space, but it's just enough that it sounds big. And especially following a guitar line, I get exactly what you're saying.
For sure. I've been obsessed with a McCartney tune called Arrow Through Me, and it's like it has these great contrasting lines that, like you said, like they're chunky, they're impactful, they're very percussive compared to what, like, especially if you're doing it, you know, acoustic, like you're really capturing a horn with that impact on the mic versus sitting there with your MIDI like, oh, I'm just gonna warm this up a little bit. Like, it just doesn't come out right at some point.
You can't hit it with a volume knob in the same way that, you know, a mic is gonna catch a brass instrument or any, you know, woodwind, any kind of instrument that requires air coming from your body into a little tube.
For sure, especially when the horns track together, like you can hear that section's agreement in the space before it kind of gets, you know, panned a little to the left and, you know, it's sitting right here. Before it's perfect, it needs to be fat and obvious.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get right with that, man. I think it's super cool, and I didn't even know the band expanded that much. So is there any plans in the near future to do anything bigger where it's the full band kind of, you know, you're taking over the world, I guess is what I'm saying. When's Matt going to take over the world?
I think the moment that we can, we'll continue to take more guys out. Like right now, it's kind of the situation of keep skinny, you know, try to keep up with the budget and playing that stuff well with the trio. But like, you know, the trombone player loves to play without the rest of the section. Like he's always like, man, just bring me out. And I'm like, all right, Jason, like let's do it. We call him the juice. Like it's a moist show. It gets crazy, man. It's really crazy. And like in some of the horn players too, they experiment more with their pedal boards when there's no other horn player going on. So like hearing a Pog hit a saxophone, and then I turn around and he's playing a synth. No, he's playing a flute through his Pogs, so it really sounds like a synth. It's a crazy vibe.
Well, this sounds extremely exciting. We're going to need to have you back with more pieces and everything. I would love to see that, because I've probably heard it, but I've never seen it to know what I'm hearing. I've probably always been like, oh, that's a cool like synth line, and then I'm going to be like, whoa, that's not a synth line at all.
Yeah. Well, what's really funny is like, you know, we can both admit there's a wide line of gigging that you have to go through if you want to do this as your profession. And sometimes you're taking, you know, Kroger gigs, you're playing at the grocery store, sometimes you're playing wedding gigs. And like, wedding gigs are the primary point in time where I get to have my horn section. So we end up throwing down late night, like people are trying to leave. I'm like, lock the doors, we're doing this, we're doing this. Yeah, exactly. Like it kicks into a new gear when you start having those guys around you more and more often. So the arrangements become a little bit more developed, and you start calling your originals on those shows and having a good time with it. And suddenly you can't live without that arrangement. You know, you miss the horns on certain songs, but you just know it hits right.
I definitely get you. Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully, you know, and from what I'm hearing as far as your EP and stuff goes, we're going to be seeing you, you know, kind of reach that threshold where you can go out with the full band, man. Because I think you got some really powerful, and it seems like you yourself are very inspired by it, and that always says a lot to me. You know, if you were coming here, it's like, yeah, it's all right, the next thing will be better. that's whenever I'm kind of like, oh, well,
Yeah.
you know, obviously he doesn't care about it. Why should anybody else? But you're like, I love it. The energy that you have
Thanks,
is
brother.
in it, man. It's
Well,
awesome.
I feel like, you know, especially working a gig like this, where like y'all are turning out content all the time, you're putting on shows, you're putting love in this community. There's something that once you're in it with a certain amount of passion and grit, there's no stepping away from it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not actively playing shows, you will put on shows. If you're not actively putting on shows, you're going to shows. The love of music is so infectious and so cyclical that you will be back for it, and I think that's the best thing about where we are right now in the world is that things are about to ramp up. We're gonna have a good time again,
I
man.
think it's gonna be good, man. And
Yeah.
I can't wait to see you again, and you know we'll get to see you tonight. And
For
hopefully
sure.
we'll get some video footage too to post out in the world. But otherwise, this is Matt Waters.
Thanks for hanging, y'all. Shout out to the
Absolutely.
Neon Rooster, the baddest venue in Aberdeen,
There
son.
you go. Yep. Don't
The
forget
only
to
venue in Aberdeen.
What? That's what you get.
don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the bell. We got the Greatest Builder Challenge. We got more Matt Waters things going on. We got an EP that you just dropped. Right?
Yes,
Check
sir.
all those things
Subscribe to
out.
Matt's channel as well.
Subscribe to
Please
Matt's
do,
channel.
please do.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll see you next time.